Hello, everybody. Welcome back into Gamecock Central. I'm Kendall Smith, joined alongside of Wes Mitchell, bringing you a quick mini edition of GC Live. We're talking this weekend in recruiting for South Carolina football. It's going to be a busy one. Lots of visitors coming to Columbia to see what the Gamecock football program has to offer. And Wes, this one, it's important for a number of reasons, but the first one being that it's the new offensive coordinator, Dowell Loggins' first opportunity to really make an impression on some of these big-time recruits.
Yeah, I was wondering which direction you were going to go because I think it's important for many reasons and in many ways. But yeah, Dow Loggins has had the opportunity now to start to talk to some recruits on the phone. But certainly this weekend, a big opportunity for him, a big opportunity for this program. Dante Reno, potentially the quarterback of the future, 2024 quarterback commitment, has already been tweeting. He made it into town. He talked to Loggins earlier this week on the phone. He's going to be in town for a couple of days in order to start to get to know him in person. So Dante is about as firmly as you can be committed, but I think still an important weekend for him to kind of get a feel for his future coach and just to make sure he's comfortable with him and comfortable with the plan. And, I think Gamecock fans are going to quickly find out. The feedback I've gotten from Arkansas reporters that follow that program, cover that program as well, is that he's just a natural recruiter. He's only been in the college game for 2 years, was very successful in getting guys committed to Arkansas. But I think if you watch or listen to the presser for Dow Loggins earlier this week, you kind of could just sense that he was a guy who doesn't have any problems connecting with people.
Yeah, for sure. His press conference to me was impressive in a lot of different ways. And he has been touted as a very good recruiter. And a lot of that is going to have to show this weekend because South Carolina having a combination of high school players come into town and then some transfer portal guys as well that are coming to Columbia as well. They've obviously got to make up some lost ground, if you will, because South Carolina has lost a number of impact players to the portal over the last few weeks, whether that's Gilbert Edmond, Jaheim Bell, Marshawn Lloyd, Corey Rucker, who could have had a really strong future at South Carolina too. So a lot of those guys coming in. And Wes, I kind of want to get into that list because I know that we do have a list of some of those guys, whether they're high school or transfers, that are going to be in the capital city this weekend.
Yeah, so y'all can go read the full thing on Gamecock Central. I don't think I'm going to give the whole thing away. They can go check it out. But Kendall, I think it's actually turned into a really nice list. It is very tight end heavy, as you can imagine. South Carolina obviously needing to replace some production. Jaheim Bell, he's out. Stogner, he's out. This will be Nate Atkins' last game. He doesn't have any eligibility left. You look at Trey Kenyon, pretty much, I guess you would say, retiring from football. So this is a tight end room that will look completely different next year. South Carolina is going to attempt to fill it with portal guys and with high school guys and sort of try to find that nice mix of players. But, hey, the portal, it's really affected South Carolina, obviously, in a negative way the last week or so. I expect them to sort of punch back in the next week or so themselves and start to fill some of those holes. You look at this list, a guy who, if he ends up at South Carolina, Kendall, I'm going to have to practice his name in the mirror because I don't think I've seen the last name Elksness yet before, but Nick Elksness, a Florida transfer, is on campus right now. He was already on campus yesterday when we were at the open practice. That was sort of an unofficial visit. For what I've heard, that has now turned into an official visit. He's going to be on campus, it appears, for the rest of the weekend. So a guy there that I think South Carolina has quickly put themselves in a good spot with. Trey Knox, who we've talked about on the message boards there on the Insiders Forum quite a bit. He is a transfer portal guy from Arkansas, so obvious connections there. Was coached by Dow Loggins at Arkansas, was also recruited to Arkansas by Justin Stepp. Knox was a wide receiver before, now a tight end. We saw him play against South Carolina earlier this year. So, those are some guys there at that position. Several high school prospects at the tight end position, including Cam Sandlin, who is already committed to South Carolina. He's taking his official visit this weekend. And, I think you look and you can kind of just see the needs in South Carolina trying to go ahead and fill those quickly with the portal this weekend.
And South Carolina saw last year, Wes, the way that the portal can really benefit a team. As we saw, this year, a lot of the guys that were impact players for South Carolina came from the portal. One of those people, obviously, being Spencer Rattler. So, obviously, the tight end position is in need of some players. But what's another position group that you think South Carolina really needs to capitalize on in the portal and with high school recruits as they head into next season?
I don't know if I would have said this before, but with the loss of Marshawn Lloyd, I think running back quickly becomes a spot that you have to look to as well, Kendall. And I don't know if that necessarily means as far as quantity. I think it's more about quality, bringing in a guy or two who you feel like can help this program right away. I think, DJ Braswell already committed to South Carolina, high school kid. I'm pretty high on him. I think he can maybe help this team as a freshman. But certainly with the loss of Lloyd, I think you want to be able to add someone who can help right away and maybe is a little bit older, a little bit more physically progressed, I think would be a way to put it. So, that's a spot where you kind of look this weekend. Again, there's an unofficial visitor in town by the name of Mario Anderson, who's from Newberry College, but he actually, people may be saying, well, that's a D2 school. He is a finalist for the award that is basically the equivalent of the Heisman for D2, had a massive season there, rushed for, I think it was like 1,500 and something yards. I don't have it in front of me, but an in-state guy who I think had some academic issues out of high school initially that held him from getting the big offers he probably would have. Now he's in the portal. He's at South Carolina right now. If they move on him, they've not offered yet as of right this second. I think an offer is possible. If they move on him, I think he could end up at South Carolina. And then an intriguing guy from the Big 12, Dominic Richardson, a transfer from Oklahoma State, running back, a guy that's put up some yardage already out there, and someone that I think, I don't necessarily have a feel for where his head is at coming into this weekend, but someone South Carolina will look to make a move with this weekend as well.
What's the story, Wes, on CJ Dupree?
So CJ Dupree, who initially was a guy that was listed as potentially coming in this weekend. I think, Kendall, that was when I was still on a blur coming back from my honeymoon, I think. Not on my expected visitors list for this weekend anymore. That's the Maryland kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Transferred from Maryland. I think there was some initial interest in South Carolina, which is why that name popped up. However, from what we're hearing now, I would look more along the lines of the Elkness kid, Trey Knox. Of course, South Carolina wants to keep Cam Sandlin committed as well. They did their in-home with him earlier this week, and he's going to take his official this weekend. Reed McKeska, a Miami commitment from the high school ranks, is going to be in town. Shamar Easter, an Arkansas commitment from the high school ranks, 4-star kid, tight end. So there are some other guys, including those guys I just mentioned, that I think are more likely to end up at South Carolina. Seems like Dupree is focused on other schools now.
Couple questions to end things off, Wes. First off, South Carolina had a pretty big decommit this past week in Tree Babalade, big-time offensive lineman, 4-star out of Maryland. Are you hearing anything along those lines regarding Tree and maybe, when recommit or, committing to another school could happen for him?
Yeah, I think one thing I was going to be paying attention to this weekend, Kendall, was he expected in? And that was something I think South Carolina had been working to get him in earlier in the week. I think there was a possibility for him to visit this weekend. From what I have right now, I don't know that that's expected. So, I don't know if that's a great sign for South Carolina at this point. I do think if you want to kind of compare the two, they had the two O-line decommits right there in a row with Tree and Isaiah Jada. I don't think there's much of a chance at all that Jada ends up back at South Carolina. I do think there was still at least a possibility for Tree to end up back in Columbia. It's someone there's a long-standing relationship there. They have put a lot of time, energy, and effort into building that relationship and getting him committed the first time. So I don't think you'll see South Carolina give up there just yet. I think they'll keep pushing, doing everything they can until Carolina ends up either missing on him or he maybe doesn't even sign next week. If he's truly torn, maybe he just decides to wait it out.
Yeah, National Signing Day is next week, and South Carolina kicking off the weekend with a couple of welcome homes. Shane Beamer tweeted those out yesterday. Wes, we like to make sure that we kind of give the players the opportunity to announce that on their own with respect to them so that they can have their moment and make that announcement. But do you have any indications as to when these players might go public?
No specifics, especially on the second one. The first one, I don't think the fans are going to be waiting too long. Like this is not going to be one of those. I think there were a couple times where it was like months. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be one of those. The article is written. The article is ready to go out. We'll have that as soon as the tweet fires off. We'll put it out there as well. But I think that'll be a pretty short wait. Probably, I would think in the next couple of days is probably safe to say.
All right, Wes, anything else you want to add on the recruiting front before we get out of here? I did say this was going to be a mini episode, and it really has been, of GC Live.
Yeah, you said 5 minutes. I said that's 10 minutes in my time. We're at 11 right now, so we're not bad, Kendall. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep it quick, and let's tell everybody, go check out GamecockCentral.com throughout the weekend. And on Sunday, of course, we're going to have reactions from as many of these guys as we can get in touch with. So come check it out. We got deals going on all the time. If you're a subscriber, you know where to find us. If you're not, come on over, give it a shot, GamecockCentral.com.
Yeah, hop on the bandwagon now while you can. GamecockCentral.com. Stay up with us on all of our social medias at Gamecock Central. Sorry I'm doing this from my car. I am in Charlotte right now, but we're still bringing you all the content that you could possibly need. So
Is the sunroof open right now, or just the little shade part is?
The part, but it is a beautiful day in Charlotte. You could see like the skyline a little bit behind me.
Yeah, not a bad background. By the way, we had one. I don't even know if you would call this a question. I think they were just yelling a name, but somebody said Sellers, which I think means will you talk about Lenora Sellers real quick, Kendall? Sellers not a guy that's among the list as far as the big recruiting weekend right now. He's competing in the Shrine Bowl on Saturday, so he'll be handling his business there. But a very close, tight battle down the stretch. South Carolina doing everything in their power to try to flip him from Syracuse. I think it's going to be close. I think he's a little bit torn. Ultimately, if you made me guess, I would think the Gamecocks can pull it off and get the flip and keep him at home.
Real quick before we leave, I know I said I only had one more question and we're at 12 minutes now, but everyone wants to know about Nicholas Harbor. Do you think that he will be committing before next week, or do you think, kind of as we've expected, he'll be a February signee?
Yeah, I never say never on anything with recruiting, Kendall. So you never, ever, ever say never. But the plan for months has been to wait and to gather as much information as possible and wait until February. So I've seen kids say they're waiting until February and then sign on, the early sign period and surprise everyone. So that's why I give that little caveat. But the plan has been and is for him to wait until February. And, that's going to give him an opportunity to have, I guess a few more weeks, month and a half there to go ahead and keep gathering information and to see what everybody else does during the early signing period.
Wes, this is the first time we've been on a show together for a long time. It feels good to be back. Wes back from his honeymoon. So everybody say congratulations to Wes for getting married. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this edition of GC Live, just talking all things recruiting, as South Carolina has a massive weekend, to put it very lightly, in recruiting this weekend. So be sure to head over to GamecockCentral.com for more. Follow us at Gamecock Central on all of our social medias as I drop my phone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your Friday, a great weekend. He's Wes Mitchell. I'm Kendall Smith, and this has been GC Live.